All right, everybody, welcome to episode 49 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm here with my main man, Bill at Super Duper Flex, and our special guest host. If you're watching, you've seen him before. If you're listening, you've heard him before. It is our main man, Drew. So, Bill, I'll start with you first. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm glad we were able to get this going. I was running behind, so I'm glad I got home in time to do it. And thanks, Drew, for covering for me if I didn't.
Absolutely.
And how you doing? How you doing today, Drew?
Doing well. Doing well. It's interesting trying to get the days straight this week coming off of Tuesday football.
Yeah, man. Well, and we're gonna get into that, man. We've been on a football binge, kind of. So this is our detox day. So we're gonna go through all the games and give our little 2 cents and see what everyone thinks here. So Bucks Bears started us off Thursday night. The feeling was right for the Chicago Bears, Nick Foles, and A Rob. So my little 2 cents here is that Foles is good for A Rob. I mean, he may not look the best out there on every play, but God, he loves throwing it to A Rob. Do you see anything out there, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, the positive is that he's more accurate than Trubisky. So, I mean, anything beyond 7 yards, I feel like there's a better chance of the ball going to Allen Robinson. There's still a lot of passes where you're like, oh my God, so it's like, I'm not sure Foles is a long-term answer, but he's the better answer, I think. And I think that the coaches are more comfortable with him running the offense. So, yeah, I mean, that's really all I got. I don't think it's like Foles is better for him. I don't necessarily agree that Foles is good for him. So,
well, Bill, that may be the scariest statement we've ever uttered on this show. That Foles is good or better than anyone. So that's that. So Jags Texans, big win for the previously 0-4 Texans, now 1-4 Texans. Big games by Deshaun Watson and Brandon Cooks. Drew, are the Texans back, and is there anything else that you saw in this game?
Man, I hope so. I like Deshaun Watson a lot. I co-manage a couple teams where we've got him as our QB1. It's always tough when the coach gets fired. You kind of typically see a resurgence and everybody feels good the following week, and then it's still the NFL, so it's tough sledding. You've got all the uncertainty this year. It was quite a shock to go and watch Brandon Cooks go off on my bench in a few leagues, which I'm glad that he did. I'm glad he stayed healthy. Looks like he got another hard shot later on in the game. So glad he didn't end up back in protocol after that. But I mean, hopefully the Texans are enjoying a little bit of success right now. And, I'd like to see they've got the talent to compete. AFC South is tougher than I think some people give it credit for. But I hope that they ride a little momentum here, but it's a long season still.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into the AFC South a little bit more in a few games, and we were talking about players that we've had to start due to all the injuries and everything, and Brandon Cooks was one of those players. So I was happy to see the big game from him finally, because unfortunately I've had to start him the last couple of weeks as well, and it didn't turn out as well as it did this week. So we're going over to Bengals Ravens. Um, Hollywood and Mark Andrews both get themselves a touchdown. I think that Mark Andrews has solidified himself as the stone cold lock and loaded tight end 3 in the league. Bill, anything else you see in that game?
I think that Lamar, last week I had mentioned how he kind of looked rattled, and then it came out that he has kind of a bum knee right now. And so, I mean, we could see that, he just wasn't quite as mobile as he typically is. But yeah, I mean, he hit his 2 major weapons. I mean, those are the guys that you expect to perform, and those are the guys that against a pretty mediocre to not so good defense like Cincy's, that those are the guys that are going to perform. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of like what you would hope and expect from them against that team. Burrow, that was his worst game by far so far. But they played a top defense, so I'm not going to give him a hard time about that, and I'm still stoked to have him on my teams. I think he's truly one of those guys that is going to end up being like a top 10 quarterback every year.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a little surprising seeing the amount of hate that Burrow was getting after, this being his 5th game against probably a top 5 defense. Yeah, I think some people were being a little too hard on him.
If that's the case, make some offers. Let's go. Just hammer every league you're in, and maybe run into one of those people that is going, maybe he's never going to be good against good teams.
Not gonna lie, I think a lot of the people that are giving Joe Burrow crap are people that don't have Joe Burrow on their team, because if you go around and try to make offers, you're gonna get a whole lot of "get the hell out of here." So
yeah, you're getting the Mr. Rogers gif from me, where he,
yep,
the middle finger, then the middle finger.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny how Twitter works sometimes. Raiders Chiefs, man, Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs blow up, the upset win. I'd actually read an article before this week's game started that said, who could beat the Chiefs? Like, the Chiefs are so great, who could actually beat them? And the funny thing is, I thought to myself, and this is something I couldn't ever write on Twitter, because 99 out of 100 times it doesn't come true, and then people come blast you. I was like, maybe the Raiders could. I mean, they have the weapons. I mean, but yeah, they came out. Derek Carr may have played the best game of his career, and Josh Jacobs was on fire too. Drew, was there anything else you saw in that game that you liked, or any fantasy implications you're thinking about?
I'm thinking about folks in Scott Fishbowl that took Derek Carr late and hammered RB early, and are reaping the rewards for it now. Guys like him and Teddy and some of the folks that were going in rounds 8, 9, 10. Kudos to those folks that took that gamble. I certainly was not a believer coming into this. I thought, Raiders were going to be helping Gruden write his resume after this year, but man, they looked good. Again, it's the NFL. Any given Sunday, right? Any given week, it's amazing to see. So kudos to the Raiders. It's good to see Jacobs continuing. I think a lot of people thought after week 1 he was maybe going to regress a lot or fall off the map there, and he continued to roll. For those who took a long shot on Aguilar, got a couple of payoff weeks, which is kind of fun to see. Good luck still figuring out if he's an every week start. But and then, of course, you got Sammy at the end of the game that pulls up with a hamstring again. So it'll be interesting to see how they, who emerges there. But yeah, Kansas City is so rich in resources. You got to think that they'll rebound. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next game for the Chiefs coming off that loss against the Bills.
What's up, Bill?
Well, and I was just going to say, I think it's really interesting how much Ruggs changes that offense. He just pulls everything forward, and it loosens up the whole defense, because everybody's got to take a step or two back. And, it just kind of opens lanes that you don't expect. And I mean, it helps the running back. It helps, Waller. It helps everybody. And I mean, you see once he gets that ball in his hands, how dynamite he is. And it's almost like they got their own little Tyreek Hill going. I mean, he's obviously not as good at the 50-50s, but I mean, that's a weapon, and it's interesting to see how that offense just completely changed once he got back in the lineup.
Yeah,
it's like they knew what they were doing when they drafted him.
And it's amazing, because Drew, you brought up Aguilar, and living in Philly, I reached out to one of my buddies that's an Eagles fan, and I said, "Hey, what would you do to have Nelson Aguilar on your team right now?" And he was like, "Please don't talk to me about it." But it's funny, Bill. You make a great point about Ruggs, and Ruggs ended the game with 118 yards, and you figured he had to have 6, 7, 8 receptions. 2 receptions for 118 yards. That just
Yeah.
shows what he can do when he's unleashed, and it's cool because
That's-
Bill and I talked about this during the offseason. I said, we're hyping up a lot of Derek Carr's weapons. Josh Jacobs is good. We think Ruggs is good. A lot of people are high on Brian Edwards, who's been injured the last couple weeks. Darren Waller. We're high on all these weapons, but somehow we're low on Derek Carr. And I just posed the question, how can we say all of the weapons are going to be good, but then the quarterback is going to be bad? And I think this game is one of those games that you see if everyone is clicking kind of right. I mean, as Drew said, Derek Carr in those later rounds, even in Superflex leagues, is looking like a good pick right now. Yeah. So we got Cards and Jets, and before I usually try to rate these up and keep updating them as the week goes on. I had something about the Cardinals receivers, and then the news came down yesterday that Le'Veon Bell gets cut. He gone. Obviously, there was, we heard all the drama between him and Gase and all of that. So that's my takeaway from that game, because I think he had 17 touches in that game, 60, 70 yards, something like that. So it wasn't great efficiency wise, but they kind of got him in there and then cut him. I don't get the Jets, but Bill, is there anything else that you pull from this game?
Not really. I mean, I think the Bell thing's the biggest news. I had Bell in a few leagues, and somebody offered me like AJ Green in a third for him, and I'm like, no, you should be offering me like a first rounder now that he's been cut by the Jets. Like, it's the opposite. You know what I mean? You offer that to me like in week 2.
Right.
You don't offer that to me once he gets cut, because that's everybody knows the Adam Gase magic touch. So if he doesn't have that Adam Gase magic touch, who knows what's going to happen. He's going to end up signing with some like great team, or, some team that's going to help him and or that he can help, and he's going to be motivated, and he's going to have probably an offensive coach that's going to actually scheme properly for him. And, we're going to see him be probably an RB2 for the rest of the year for somebody. And Gase is going to be sitting there with LaMichael Pirine getting 2.8 yards per carry.
Don't disrespect the great name of LaMichael Pirine, all right?
It's just any like mediocre running back behind a line like that. It's just that's what you expect, And I mean, he's proven that he's just not a great game. He has his scheme and that's it. He's not going to change stuff up. That's why you see it's always the why am I blanking at the moment? The slot receiver, because that's just the way that he funnels his offense. It's you never see it where he changes things based on matchups or anything like that. It's always like, we're just going to pepper it in the middle of the field, and, hopefully things open up for us after that. And he obviously can't handle anybody who's got as big a personality or bigger personality than him. So he's got to get rid of him. Kind of a Bill O'Brien light, shall we say.
And I think this just proves the point that, everyone says, why hasn't Gase been fired? And I think at this point, Joe Douglas, who's the GM of the Jets, is going to let it ride for the whole year. Adam Gase is the best opportunity they have at the number 1 pick. Obviously, they're making moves like cutting Lev Bell, who could accidentally maybe win them a game if he has a big game. They don't want that in their system. So, they're doing everything they can to hit 0-16. And, you may not even see Sam Darnold for the rest of this year, just based on the fact that Sam Darnold has the ability to maybe accidentally win you a game. It might be Joe Flacco for the rest of the year. So, the Jets are doing Jet things, and I feel bad for Jets fans. Our boy, friend of the show, Larry Monkey, is a Jets fan, and God bless him. I don't know how he does it. All right, we're moving on now to Eagles Steelers, the battle of the Keystone State. And Drew, like we all thought going to this game, the top 2 receivers were obviously going to be Chase Claypool and Travis Fulgham, right? I mean, that's what we all were predicting when we were drawing this game up. Even at the beginning of the season, we said, yeah, this is going to be the big clash between those 2 heavyweights. Anything
what
else
I had in my article this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you, and you can find that wherever Drew posts a big Travis Fulgham layout with Old Dominion's favorite son. So, was there anything else you pulled from that game, or any other fantasy implications you saw?
Not a whole lot. I mean, we'll see how Deontay rebounds. I know he's had some health concerns this year, so who knows if that'll open things up, if Juju will kind of come back and continue to get some work. I saw a nice tweet. If it was Ben or somebody was talking to somebody in the media or his family, appreciating Juju's humble approach to the work, which is fine. But I really need Juju to step up and be a bigger part of that offense. But same thing, you got James Washington. So we'll see. Ben still looks pretty good. He's producing, which is great. So good to see him bounce back. And I mean, it's tough to watch the Eagles, man. That's just kind of the big takeaway from that. So fun to see Sanders go and blow out everybody's expectations with a 70-some yard run. And, but yeah, not a whole lot other than, Chase Claypool, man. The Steelers know what they're doing with receiver. They've got the code figured out there.
Well, I said I put out a tweet during that game. I said the Eagles need to immediately sign Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward, and they have their number 1 and number 2 receivers signed for the next 10 years. So, because that's where they're at. And Greg Ward was doing it last year when everybody else fell off. So, man,
if I'm the Eagles, I'm not signing any wide receiver to more than a 1-year contract. I swear, man. There's so many injuries.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, normally you say, "Oh, is it a bad medical staff?" But it seems to be that just the wide receivers that kind of get caught up in this bad health. Jalen Reagor
and their offensive line, and
this year the
Dallas Goedert.
Yeah,
he coming back. Don't say that. He's coming back. I have him in SFBX. He's coming back. Don't say it to me. So we're going to move on to the Rams versus the football team. The Rams are really good, but they're bad for fantasy. And maybe a little hot takey. Maybe it's not hot takey, but I mean, Travis Higbee, RIP. You were good for those 4 games. We missed you. Gerald Everett was the tight end that balled out. And then you can kind of never figure out, is it going to be a Robert Woods game? Is it going to be a Cooper Kupp game? They don't usually both blow up in the same game. And then forget trying to play the running back roulette, with the Rams. So, Bill, was there anything else you saw in that game that caught your eye?
Yeah, Alex Smith. I mean, that was pretty damn cool. And, when Aaron Donald hopped on his back, I'm like, oh, dear God. But that's exactly what you need, right? Like, you need to be able to, if you get that dude on your back and hitting you 3, 4, 5 times in that game, and he still got up, walked off the field. I mean, that's going to do so much for his mental, outlook when he goes onto the field next time. And, who knows when that's going to be. I think Kyle Allen's still the starter, somebody said. And so he's going to be backing up, I guess. But that opportunity may present itself again. And I mean, it was just so cool to see him back out on the field, even though he didn't, he gets such a free pass, but he still looked like an NFL quarterback out there. And I mean, he looked poised. He looked like he knew what he was doing. I mean, when he started running, I'm like, oh, no, 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 just don't do that. But, it was cool. It was cool to see him to get take the hits and keep playing. And, it was just, I'm kind of speechless about the whole thing. Just remember seeing how he looked, a couple years ago.
And it's amazing. We focus this pod around Twitter and what people were putting on Twitter, and people were like, he didn't look good. He didn't look like this and that. I don't know why they put him out there. And I said, we have to realize that as much information as the 3 of us and many, many others who are hardcore into this fantasy game, we're not in practices. Obviously, Ron Rivera has seen Alex Smith in practice. He's seen, the Washington defensive line is a very good unit. So if in practice they're getting these guys running after him and he's running around and he, like Ron Rivera has seen that things that we haven't seen. And, I agree with you, Bill. The final box score may have not, opened your eyes wide, but just watching him out there, watching the rush come at him, the rush come around him, he wasn't freaking out. He wasn't trying to bail as soon as he felt somebody in the general zip code. He was in there. You mentioned the Aaron Donald on the back play. Like, he did all the things that, we also have to remember that this guy hasn't played a competitive game since 2018. So it's been a little while. There's rust. He's got to knock some of that off if he ends up having to go back there and play. And I think this game helped him do some of that. So yeah, Alex Smith, that's a big one there. So we're gonna move on now to the Dolphins and the Niners. I don't think that Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Myles Gaskin get the respect that they deserve. We talk about quarterbacks all the time, and we talk about our big names. We talk about our Aaron Rodgers and our Lamars and our Patrick Mahomes, and we don't mention Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he just kind of quietly plugs away, has himself, top 10 weeks, top 12 weeks, top 13 weeks, and we kind of just, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, we can't, And Myles Gaskin is kind of pulling his James Robinson impersonation at this point. Jordan Howard was a healthy scratch in this game, which I think says a lot about what Myles Gaskin has been doing. So, Drew, I don't know if there was anything else that you saw during that game.
No, I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, man. I'm a diehard Bills fan, so I loved seeing him up in the Northeast, and he made Stevie Johnson relevant, and he made some guys around him a lot of fun to watch. His attitude is awesome. The things you read on Twitter and in the news about him, Gesicki said he'd like to play the next 15 years with him. He's there, and he acknowledges his role with Tua. So, I don't think Tua could have found a better role model in a number of different ways. Consummate team player. The guy scored a freaking 48 on the Wonderlic, so he's smart as hell. His body is going to give up on him at some point here, but he still lays it all out there. I love seeing him a couple of weeks ago running for the first downs and putting his body on the line. So 350 and 3 touchdowns in the NFL. I don't care who you're playing. That's a decent game. And yeah, Myles Gaskin, what a pleasant surprise there. I was able to nab him off waivers after like week 1 in a few leagues, and just kind of, okay, well, great. I'll have a little bit of depth. And now I'm actually starting him as my RB 2 or 3 in some of my leagues based on injuries and stuff. And it's been great. So we'll see. I was not really up to speed on him when he came into the league last year. So I kind of lucked into him in a few places this year. But yeah, I love Fitzpatrick, man. I've loved him everywhere he's gone. I've always been excited about the receivers around him. So whether it's Preston Williams now as he gets healthier, kind of coming into his own, or Devontae Parker, Gesicki, I think they'll all flourish. And I don't think there will be much of a difference really, at least early on when Tua steps in. I think Tua is very talented, and hopefully he just continues improving the offense. But I don't think it's going to be a night and day difference where we're going to all of a sudden look at Tua and realize, oh my God, there's such as wide chasm between what Fitzpatrick was doing and what Tua was doing for his first few games.
Yeah, and you mentioned his intelligence from Harvard, so obviously smart dude. But I think he's NFL's version of Benjamin Button. It seems like the longer he goes on, the looser he is, and the more fun he's having doing this. Like, usually you see that from rookies, and we yell at them like they got to take the game more seriously, and they have to watch. They have to cut down on interceptions, and they have to cut. Ryan Fitzpatrick's just like, hey, whatever, man. I'm going to throw it at the double coverage. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll get him next time. And he's just so loose, and he's having fun.
He's the fun version of Jay Cutler.
Yeah, and he's the fun, smart version of Jay Cutler. And we sometimes, we get too serious about this. We're like, this guy needs to take this seriously. Yeah, it's their job, and they do need to take it seriously. But at the end of the day, they're playing a game. They should be having fun too. And Ryan Fitzpatrick definitely proves that you can be good at your job. You can prepare every week. You can do all the stuff that you need to do behind the scenes. But then once you get out onto the field, you could just be loose and have fun and remember it's a game. So, Yeah, he's one of my favorite players, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I just love the guy on and off the field. So this next game, and it's gonna be hard to talk about for me, but the Giants and the Cowboys. So the Cowboys win the game, and they lose a whole lot more, obviously, unless you've been hiding under a rock. Everybody saw the Dak Prescott ankle injury, double fracture, dislocation. He had to have surgery a few hours after that game. And last I heard, he's going to be out 4 to 6 months. So his season is officially over. The Cowboys move on to Andy Dalton. So, Bill, what else did you take from that game?
I mean, I took that Andy Dalton's he was the best possible guy to play behind Dak. I mean, he looked pretty solid out there. I mean, he looked exactly like a quarterback that's played in the NFL for a decade. And it surprised me that nobody wanted to give him more of an opportunity after last year, because what has he played with? Now he gets to play with like all these weapons. I mean, I don't think, and I'm not saying he's as good, but I don't think there's this huge drop off between Dak and him, because he's got, he has that experience that he can call on. I mean, he's not going to be as, mobile, but it's not like he's immobile, and he's still going to be able to move around the pocket. He's still going to, run around a little bit if he has to. So I think that, I mean, it was huge for Dallas to sign him. And I mean, especially the way this is all set up, he could be a fantastic fantasy quarterback this year. So, I mean, what I take from the game other than that is that CeeDee Lamb is the best wide receiver on that team. And it took a lot less time than I expected for him to be, at least, he might not be the best right now. Like, I don't want to say that, but he's one of the best rookie wide receivers I've seen in a long time. And it's pretty exciting to see him. I think the least he's done is like 5 or 6 catches and like 60 yards. I mean, the worst game, if you prorate that's 1,000 yards for the season. And like, he has all these other games that were way better. So, I mean, I think I looked at it today and he's on pace for like, I mean, of course, but like close to 90 catches, 1,300 yards, and like 6 touchdowns or something like that. So, I mean, it's pretty insane. And just to start without even a preseason, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. We were talking about this last week. You mentioned it a couple times on the show. Last week I was on the Hot Sauce podcast with Larry Monkey, and we were actually talking about this. And I mentioned on that show that I think maybe not in this year's startups, but next year's startups, CeeDee Lamb is going to be in that area where we're talking about, DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams. I think we're going to be talking about CeeDee Lamb in those same circles as a first round top 3 receiver type pick. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not calling it for 2021 because I think he's going to. I think he's still going to do very well. Obviously, I think there's a talent drop off between Dak and Andy Dalton, but I think that Andy Dalton behind center may actually help the team more. Just in the fact that I think they're going to become more run heavy, which I think is going to keep that defense off the field, which Lord knows we need every trick in the book to keep that defense off the field. So I think it may help the team overall. But we did not have a legitimate backup quarterback for the first 4 years that Dak was in the league, and we got lucky that he played every single game. Because if we had to run out Cooper Rush in this situation, I mean, the season's over. You're not even talking about the fact that, Dallas can win a very bad NFC East, and with Andy Dalton, you still have those hopes if you're a Cowboy fan. So I'm gonna move on here to the Panthers and the Falcons. And my takeaway, can we all just admit that Robbie Anderson is the wide receiver one on that team and move along? Drew, what do you think about that?
Man, that's tough. I know you're going to make a lot of DJ Moore managers real upset real quick. I've got a buddy that's a co-manager with me in a few leagues, and he's got DJM in a couple of his leagues, and he's souring on him, and I'm trying to talk him off the ledge of, trading him too low, too early. But yeah, again, you go back to the Gase effect, right? You can go down a laundry list of folks that now have found their freedom, Anderson's in a different scenario where he's back with his Temple coach, and there's some rapport there. And, Teddy is doing, I think, better than I expected him to do in terms of distributing the ball and hitting the targets. But I don't know if I'm ready to call him the wide receiver one there, but he's sure playing like it 5 weeks in. So I don't know what'll happen, through the rest of the 11 games if DJ Moore steps up and builds some more chemistry with Teddy, and who knows what it'll be over the next couple of years. But if I'm in redraft and somebody's still unsure if Anderson is legit, I'll throw an offer out there.
Yeah, and this isn't a DJ Moore is bad comment. Like I understand when I say, let's just all admit that Robbie Anderson is the one in Carolina. Everyone just means that I'm saying that DJ Moore sucks. He doesn't. DJ Moore is very good. It's just the way the offense is running right now. Robbie Anderson is slipping into that role. And DJ Moore had a hell of a touchdown run. It was 40, 50 yards. It looked great. But in PPR, they pretty much ended with the same amount of points, even though Robbie Anderson didn't get the touchdown because Robbie Anderson went for like 9 for 118 or something like that. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I think that I agree with you, Drew. I know our buddy, our boy in the DAP network, Rocky, was very high on Teddy Bridgewater, thought he was going to have a very good season.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sold. I wasn't as sold. He also correlated that to DJ Moore, being possibly a top 5-ish wide receiver this year. And it looks like that's sliding more Robbie Anderson's way. But Drew, you make a good point. We're only 5 weeks in, so things can change on a dime, and we can be talking in week 8 about how the last 3 weeks have been all DJ Moore all the time. So it's a little early.
Curious. Yeah, I am curious. Sorry, I just kind of pivot there too. Watching Mike Davis play, curious what you guys think as far as what the split will be once CMC is healthy. If there will be even a split, or if it'll go right back to what it was going to be all year anyways.
I'll let Bill go first because I think I'm against the norm on this one. So I'll let Bill go first.
I think that he's going to get some play, but I don't think it's going to be enough to be fantasy relevant. I think it's just going to affect CMC a little bit. But it might be good for him. And I think that they can actually, kind of use CMC a little bit more, differently. They can maybe move him out to the slot. Sometimes maybe they put both backs out there at times. I think it just gives the team a little bit more versatility in what they can do. And I mean, with Brady as the play caller, I mean, I like that because seems to be a pretty smart dude. And I think he'll figure out some ways to work both of them in. So that kind of affects CMC a little bit because it's like, okay, is he going to be getting that volume? And I mean, he might get a little bit less volume, but I think that actually helps with his efficiency a little bit. So I wouldn't be worried about it being too material of a difference for, fantasy points.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of interesting because I think that this could have a bigger effect on Christian McCaffrey than a lot of people want to give it credit for. Just because I think that Matt Rule is the type of coach that uses the weapons that he has, and he knows. I mean, we've kind of seen it with Robbie Anderson. We always thought of Robbie Anderson as the deep threat. He was the 9 route guy, go long, catch the ball, give us a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown, and that's all you're good for. And now we're starting to see that Robbie Anderson can do a little bit of everything. He's not just a deep threat. And I'm wondering if we're talking about a situation where, I mean, CMC is going to come back. He's going to get the majority of the touches, and that's not the point I'm trying to make here. But I'm wondering what if Mike Davis gets 30% of the touches? That could be a big deal to Christian McCaffrey. Bill is still correct in the point that 30% of the touches doesn't make Mike Davis a fantasy relevant running back, but it could have an effect on Christian McCaffrey. But Bill also made a good point where he said this may just be part of the offense then, where Matt Rule sees that he has two guys that can do a variety of things, and that means that maybe Christian McCaffrey goes out wide more, or maybe Christian McCaffrey goes into the slot more, and they still have those two guys on the field at the same time in a variety of packages that, that you kind of have to account for both guys. Mike Davis has kind of proven, at least in that system, that he's a weapon and that he can be very, very good in that system. And I can't believe that Rule just decides that he's just going to keep that guy on the bench for, 85 to 95% of the snaps. So that's just my opinion. Who knows? Rule could turn around as soon as Christian McCaffrey's healthy and that guy's back to 95 to 98% of touches. But I just think after seeing him, you're not going to just go back to doing that. So we're going to move on now. Colts Browns. Here's my big takeaway, and I know this isn't going to surprise anyone. Phillip Rivers isn't good. He's not anymore. He's not good. Bill, anything else you saw from that game? That's what I saw. You're muted.
Yeah, their offense is in such a like sludge. Like they're just not that dynamic offense that you were hoping. Like it kind of looked decent that first week, and then Rivers kind of just fell into that like terrible decisions, and he just doesn't have the arm strength anymore, and it's frustrating to watch because it's like, and where do they go? I mean, that's the real question is like, you either go to Brissett, who's he's not a very dynamic quarterback. I mean, he can run a little bit, but he's always like his accuracy is good till not even necessarily to the intermediate routes. And then he's just terrible for any deep passing. So, like, it's a tough one. And, is Jacob Eason the answer? I mean, probably not for at least a year or two to even have a shot of determining if he is. So, like, I don't know. I'm a little worried about them for the next few years. I mean, the offensive line, they might end up wasting that. And, T.Y. Hilton, he's not getting much just because of the limitations of Rivers, and it's just a cluster bleep, and it's sad to kind of see because you could see where this offense could be incredible, but the quarterback and just is holding them back, really.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the craziest thing about it is that they're only a game and a half out of first. So it's not even like you're going to turn around and, like you said, go to Brissett or go to Jacob.
I mean, yeah, they've only played 5 games, though. I mean, a game, that's...
Well, yeah, I mean, the Titans had the bye week already, which gives them the half game, and then they're 4-0. The Colts are 3-2, but they're not so far out that you have to start looking at Jacob Eason or Jacoby Brissett or whatever. So unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot more of Phillip Rivers, before we don't. Good thing is that they probably can get out of his contract this year. So, maybe they can trade for a Sam Darnold, or maybe Dallas screws the whole Dak thing up and lets him go into free agency and they sign Dak or something like that. Like I think we're going to be looking at another season similar to last year. Obviously, the names aren't going to be as big as we had, Tom Brady moved to a new team, Phillip Rivers moved to a new team. But I think we're going to see a lot of guys that have a name that are going to be on new teams, and it's going to be interesting to watch. So we are now at Vikings Seahawks. Man, Alexander Mattison and Adam Thielen were good. Obviously, Madison not so good on that 4th and 1. It's another story for another day, but overall, both of those guys played well. Drew, anything else you saw in that game?
Man, I watched a little bit of it. DK, is he in the wide receiver one conversation? I'm not quite there yet, but being tied to Russ, man, he is good. He's got some mental errors that we saw last week, but man, Russ is cooking. Glad I've got him where I do. But yeah, it was an exciting game to watch, and Madison, man, I don't see how they let Dalvin play this week, even if he thinks he's healthy. Get him out of there, give him the bye week, and even then they should be splitting Madison in more. I know Dalvin, they just paid him a lot of money, but get the investment back from him.
Yeah, agree with you. DK is no CeeDee Lamb. I'll say that right now. And Madison's very good. I agree with you that even once Cook gets back, and I don't think he'll be back to at least after the bye, they need to mix him up a little bit more to keep Cook healthy. All right, so Broncos and Patriots, we ain't talking about it because they got postponed. Chargers and Saints, and I put down all hail King Justin Herbert of the Bolts. I mean, he's really good. He was kind of the odd man out during the whole draft process, but he is kind of putting his mark on that Chargers team. Bill, anything that you saw from that game?
Yeah, the Saints look rough. Like, they don't look good. There's just something that's not clicking with them. And I mean, maybe it's the Michael Thomas thing. I don't know. But it was interesting just to see them struggle kind of how they have. And Herbert looks amazing. And it's pretty cool to see him kind of gaining a chemistry with Keenan Allen. And also, Mike Williams just falls hard every time he catches the ball. And so I will never purchase him on any of my teams because it looks like he's going to get injured every single time he makes a catch.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what the problem is with the Saints? They keep bringing in Taysom goddamn Hill into the game, stealing my Alvin Kamara touchdowns that I need. Stop hurting my Alvin Kamara stock, Sean Payton. All right, that's my rant. Bills Titans, that was the Tuesday night football we were talking about. So we've been watching football from Thursday to Tuesday. It's awesome. I love it. I could keep doing it. But the king in his court, and King Henry in his court just rolled on the Bills. I mean, Tannehill had a good game. Derrick Henry had a good game. AJ Brown had a good game. Jonnu Smith had a good game. Drew, you're the resident Bills fan here. I know you were probably feeling pretty good going into that game 4-0. Any other takeaways you saw from that game?
I cannot tell you how peeved I am at the victim mentality that the Titans took over 16 days that they put on themselves for being out of football. Kudos to McDermott for having 2 game plans ready to go. And for everybody that's going to point at Josh Allen and say this is who he truly is, there were a number of plays. That second pick was on him. That first one was a tip ball. He was doing a good job getting in a rhythm of taking what the defense gave him. That bullet to Yeldon was ridiculous. I actually just bought my Allen jersey, so hopefully I didn't jinx him. But brighter days ahead for Buffalo. I think the whole system there, from management through what they're building with the team, Diggs is outperforming everything that I thought he was going to have a hard time adapting to a new team, outdoor stadium, less accurate quarterback, all the above. So I faded him everywhere, and now I'm eating crow everywhere I look. So, but I'm happy to be eating that kind of crow for the Bills.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, Drew. I think that every bad team in the league can just kind of look at the Bills' game plan because they had been bad for a very long time, and they kind of showed how you can build a team from the top level of management down and really build a team that I think will compete this year and compete in future years. So, all right, so that's the news. All right, we're about the same time as last week, so I won't give us too much credit. But in the chat, we got an interesting question. So I'm gonna throw this up here real quick from Sleepy Refresh. I love that name. That sounds smooth. Sleepy Refresh. Antonio Gibson for DJ Chark, full PPR. We asked Dynasty or season long. I'm not sure if Sleepy is actually sleeping or if he had to pop out of the chat, but we'll do a quick little bit on both. We'll start with Dynasty. Antonio Gibson for DJ Chark. Drew, what do you think?
Oh man, I've got DJ Chark a couple places, so I'm a little biased. I also sold high, I thought, on Antonio Gibson early in the year. For Dynasty, I'd probably take the wide receiver just for the shelf life. I think he showed what he can do. If he's doing it with Minshew, I don't know really exactly where I land on Minshew's talent long term, but I feel like if Minshew can make him relevant, then surely somebody else could. Once they move on at some point. So for me in Dynasty, I'll take the DJ Chark side.
And Bill, you and I were nodding in agreement, so I'm assuming we're both taking DJ Chark for Dynasty as well.
That's correct.
Does any of this change if we're talking about redraft?
I mean, redraft, yes. I mean, because Chark's a little banged up. I'm a little worried about that. And Antonio Gibson seems to be getting like high volume, high utilization with just in the carries. Like, I want to say it was JJ Zacharyson was saying that he's up to 92% of the carries this last week. And his target percentage was like in the 20s. So, I mean, he's become a CMC utilized type back. And so I think that's interesting. And, and that's on a team who's not going to, were they even winning? That's like a lot of utilization for not winning, and so, yeah, I mean, he'd be who I think I would rather have especially if I need a running back for a redraft.
Drew, does it change for you in redraft?
Yeah, I would take. I mean, redraft is all about winning now. So give me the healthy guy that's getting usage. Yeah. So yes, I would take Antonio Gibson for season long.
And I'm gonna be the differing vote here. I think I go DJ Chark in redraft as well. I don't know. This is one of these, is it the chicken or the egg type deal? But Antonio Gibson didn't look good this week. Now, is that because Kyle Allen's at quarterback now, or is it because the Rams do have a very solid defense? I don't know. So next week I could definitely be wrong, but I think that this week, for redraft, I would personally go with DJ Chark because he's been hurt, but when he's been out on the field, it has been a points bonanza for him. So that was a good one. Thank you, Sleepy. We see some other questions in here too. We're going to get to all of those, but we want to do what we're known for, and that's going to what we've seen on the timeline. So this first one here is from the Dynasty Pollster at Dynasty Polsty. That's Polster with no R. 1. Need to rebuild in a 12-team Superflex league. Would you do this trade? J.K. Dobbins, T. Higgins, Devin Duvernay, Gus Edwards, and a 2022 second or DeAndre Hopkins. Now, he put DeAndre Hopkins' age in the tweet. DeAndre Hopkins is 28, so I decided to kind of do the same when I put it on the show sheet for the package. Dobbins and Higgins are both 21. Duvernay, he might be a rookie, but he's 23. And Gus Edwards is 25, in case that means anything for any of you guys. Bill, what do you think? You taking that package, or are you going with the Stone Cold Stud?
I'm going with Hopkins. I think that's still light for him. I do like Dobbins. I like Dobbins, especially if you are in a rebuild. Higgins is exciting. He's looked like he's popped a bit. The rest of the assets do absolutely nothing for me. Duvernay is just a flyer. Gus Edwards is never going to be a main back in an offense and a second 2 years from now. So, I mean, essentially I'm looking at it as two guys who are going to sit on my roster, maybe or maybe not better than what I already have. And then Dobbins and Higgins. So I think you can get more. At least that third asset needs to be better, in my opinion. And so it's Hopkins. I mean, Hopkins is he is the best wide receiver in football to me. So it's pretty easy for me.
Drew, you feel the same way about it? Package or Hopkins?
That's tough. It's definitely a harder decision. I think my knee-jerk reaction, I didn't realize it was 2022 second, which definitely makes a little bit of a difference. But I agree. I would like to probably package Duvernay Edwards in that second and try to upgrade that third asset. Depends on what the market is, of course, in the league here. I did not give DeAndre Hopkins enough credit for changing teams either this year, so I was a lot lower in the offseason. I got to think that, though, with Dobbins and some rational coaching and Harbaugh for a guy that's into analytics, something will click here where they'll realize they got to shed the third guy out of this committee. And I think I've got high hopes for Higgins with Burrow for the long term. So depending on what the time horizon is here, if we're really in rough shape and I'm not expecting to compete for another 2 years, maybe based on the picks that I've got and stuff, I'd be fine taking the package. I'd probably counter, like Bill said, with a better third asset. But yeah, I mean, at the rate that Hopkins is going, I couldn't blame anybody for keeping that either and seeing if you can maybe squeeze some more out after a few more games. It's one of those things, bird in the hand versus two in the bush. I would be very tempted, or I definitely negotiate, a little bit longer and see what I could make that package turn out to be.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make it 3 for 3. And the crazy thing about this is that the package got 71% of the vote. So obviously, maybe rookie fever is still hitting some of these people. But love Dobbins, love Higgins. Everything else to me is just eh. So to trade away, the best receiver in the game right now, I need more than 2 rookies and a bunch of whatever. So we're gonna move it here to the next one here. This is from Boyd Killingsworth at Dynasty Boyd. Which wide receiver would you prefer in Dynasty? And obviously, I pulled this before the game started. But Keenan Allen or Adam Thielen? Bill, why don't you go first?
I think they're both in that same tier of wide receiver. So I'll take the younger guy for Dynasty. So I'll go Keenan.
Drew, what about you? You going Keenan or are you going with Adam Thielen?
Man, as I get older, I love the older guys, but Keenan, and after what we saw from Herbert, this survey should be 90-10. Keenan.
Man, you guys just disrespecting wide receiver too, man. Adam Thielen is. I mean, they play on the same team too. He's Dalvin Cook. If he's healthy, God, he is so good. And yeah, his biggest con is can he stay healthy? But I love Adam Thielen. I love picking him up in startups way later than he should go, and as long as he stays healthy, I reap the rewards. So I'm going to be the detractor here. I'm going to be on the island by myself, but I'm going with Thielen. But I mean, obviously, Drew, Bill, you guys are definitely in the majority on this one. 73% going on the Keenan Allen side, while 27% are on the correct side, the Adam Thielen side. But yeah, I mean, I also love Keenan Allen though. It's just, I just think that Adam Thielen is so good as long as he's healthy. So, but here, I want to throw this one up here. Another question we got in the chat. Whoops. So this is from Blue Crew Chep. Need to drop 1 to acquire bye week running back. By the way, I love the fact that everything got pushed to Thursday because of the game on Tuesday. We can kind of actually talk a little bit about who to pick up. Normally, that's already happened by the time we get on here. So this is kind of cool. Need to drop 1 to acquire bye week running back. Higgins or John Brown. He has the number 2 waiver priority. The free agents are Madison and Freeman. Should I utilize the waiver priority for Madison or hope Freeman goes in free agency? So, all right. So it looks like he needs to drop either T. Higgins or John Brown to acquire one of these running backs. The guy I'm going for is Madison. If he's utilizing a waiver priority, so I'm using it and hoping that the guy who has number 1 isn't going to go grab him. Listen, Devonta Freeman looked good last week. He played the Cowboys. Like, let's let's kind of temper these expert expectations that Devonta Freeman all of a sudden is very good. And I mean, he played the Cowboys. Like, let's simmer down. So yeah, it's Madison for me. God, I wouldn't want to drop either one of these guys because I think they're both very good bench receivers, bye week fill-ins, injury fill-ins. I guess though, if I have to pick one, I pick John Brown. I don't even feel good saying it, but that's me. What about you, Drew? Which guy would you drop, and which free agent would you want?
I agree with you. I mean, John Brown's got a little dinged up right now. I love anybody that's attached to Josh Allen at this point outside of Dawson Knox, probably. But yeah, I think Higgins this year is great, especially if it's PPR. He's getting the targets. AJ Green is seemingly phasing out. So I love the role that Higgins can take on here. I think Burrow continues to improve, bounces back, and absolutely, I want Madison. I don't know if I want him more if I have Dalvin Cook or if I don't have Dalvin Cook, but I want Madison on my roster.
And Bill, we'll wrap it up with you.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on what how much you need a running back. Like if you just need a running back for this week, then I say Madison. If you're going to need a running back, longer, for a longer period of time, if you really need that depth, then I think Freeman might be the play. I mean, because Madison you're going to get this week, then you're not going to get him next week because they're on bye, and then who knows what happens with Dalvin coming back. Where Freeman, we kind of know he's at least going to have a role. So I mean, that's if you want to roll the dice and hope you can get him in free agency. I highly doubt it because bye weeks have started and there's going to be more than one team that's going to need a running back. So you either got to put a claim in for Freeman. If you like Madison first, you're probably going to need to put him first, then Freeman, because I don't think you're going to get him, at first come, first serve. So, and I agree, Brown is the play to drop if you need to drop somebody because of, he's dinged up. But yeah, it's just a matter of who, how you feel about the depth of your running back room.
And the great thing is that this question leads into the next tweet that we saw on the timeline. So this is from Eric Michaels at KC Titleist 11. Got into a pretty heated debate last night about waivers in one of my leagues. One out of these two, which is the better waiver setup? Continual rolling list, reverse order of standings. Those are the two options. And I'm going to start this off, and the correct option is Fab. It's not listed, but that is the correct option. Listen, everybody plays their own way, and I'm not here to harsh anyone's, mellow. Don't want to yuck your yum, but I mean, Fab is it. And look, I played in waiver leagues for a very long time, and kind of once I played Fab for the first time, it just kind of opened. It's just another level of strategy. How do you manage your money? Are you waiting for that big guy to hit the waivers to drop it all, or are you dropping money here and there every week to incrementally improve your team? So yeah, it's Fab, but since we have to play by the rules of the game and pick one of these, my opinion, it should be a continual rolling list. I mean, if you're going to tell me that I can, pick up, I'm going to be stuck picking up the worst player every week because I'm the best team in the league. I don't think that's, I don't think that's really fair. I mean, yes, I should at the beginning, I should be at the bottom of the list because I'm the best team. But, if people are making bad decisions and picking up, your Naheem Hineses of the world after week one and doing stuff like that, why should I be penalized? No, that I know those players aren't going to be it, and wait till I can pick up a Myles Gaskin or something like that, where I've waited, I bide my time for 2 or 3 weeks and then kind of jump on that opportunity. Bill, what says you?
Yeah, I think the rolling is the answer. The one I prefer. gets really weird with the record one, just because there's a team that could be terrible and lose like 3 weeks in a row, but they just happen to get the 3 guys that fall into incredible situations, and they end up winning. And so, that could be luck of the draw based on the schedule. They just happen to play the 3 best teams to start the year, and then now all of a sudden they've luck boxed into 3 starters and waivers the next 3 weeks.
Right.
So I don't like that. I think that there has to be some sort of skill involved in waivers, and I just find that there's really nothing, no sort of skill in when it's based off a record.
Yeah, agree. What about you, Drew? You making it 3 for 3?
I am. I think continual rolling is as close to fab as you're going to get because you're holding on to that spot just like you'd be holding on to your budget once you get there, assuming that you get there. Which again, it still has that luck element because if you start off with the highest scoring team week 1 and nobody else is paying attention and using their priority, then you might be stuck in 3rd or 4th spot in perpetuity. But yeah, I mean, if that's what your league has chosen, they voted on, then go for it. But it sounds like a discussion you need to have with your league mates more than you do with us.
And Drew, that Drew makes the best point out of this whole conversation. You shouldn't be talking to us about it. You should be talking to your league and just saying, "Hey, fellas, hey, ladies, let's get into fab. Let's do this thing. Let's bring some more strategy into this game." Because Bill brings up a very good point. I play in one high stakes league. My team's record is 2-3, but we have outscored the second highest scoring team by 50 points, which is an average of 10 points a week. So we've run into those. We've ran into the highest scoring team this week, 3 weeks in a row, pretty much, and we've paid the price in our record, But obviously, our team is good since we're outscoring the second place team, by a considerable amount of points. So I don't think it would be fair for my team, which is obviously doing pretty well points wise, to now all of a sudden be able to pick up Alexander Madison, or something like that, because, we just happened to kind of get unlucky for 2 or 3 weeks. So Bill bringing up a great point and Drew bringing up a great point as well. Talk to your league, get fab. You won't regret it. All right. So we got this one. This is from a buddy of ours in the FTC. And you go, man, what's the FTC? The FTC is the Fantasy Timeline Chat. If you're not a part of it, you're missing out, man. A lot of, I say this every week, we have a lot of mini Adam Schefters in there. They throw tweets in there. They throw, news bombs, knowledge bombs in there. I found out about the Melvin Gordon DUI from the FTC because somebody said, "Oh, I just saw this," and "Oh, what's going?" And it's not just football. Guys talk about guys and ladies. I don't want to forget we do have some ladies in the FTC. We're talking about our families and we're talking about what we want to barbecue and we're talking about holidays and we talk about everything, including fantasy. So if you want to be a part of that, you can drop me a line at Real Fantasy TL. You could drop Bill a line at Super Duper Flex, or just hit up the show handle at Fantasy Timeline. Just say, "Hey, I want in." That's all you got to do. After that, we throw you in, and trust me, that thing is always bumping. I turn my head. I'm at work. An hour later, I see that I have 20, 25, missed messages just from that chat. And I'm like, oh man, what's going on? People are asking trade questions. People are asking, start sit questions. It's awesome. So remember, you can get to me and Bill at our Twitters, or go to the Twitter handle for the show and get in there. But this is from our boy K-Mac at KMac248. What's anyone doing with Dalton? If you're rebuilding, what are you trying to get for him? And if you're contending, what would you give up? Could he stay in Big D? So Drew, why don't we start with you? What's your opinion on Andrew Dalton?
I'll start from the end and work backwards here. Could he stay in Big D? I think it would be apropos if the Red Rifle stayed in Texas. But I don't. I hope that the organization is smart enough to see what they have in Dak and get something worked out with him, assuming he comes back healthy. I hope Dak gets. I hope he gets paid. That's the bottom line, man. Good guy. Appreciate what he's done for not only football but for mental health and for a lot of the other issues going on in the community. I mean, Dalton could be a fine bridge, like Bill was saying earlier, for this year. Could help him compete. I think he can find the open player. I have him in a middling team in a Superflex dynasty, and I'm the tough part is my father-in-law that lost Dak, so I'm not sure how to approach that conversation. But if he comes asking, I'll negotiate a fair deal with him. But I don't know. I think in Superflex, if I've got Dalton and I don't plan to play him this year a bunch because maybe I'm rebuilding or looking for a better pick next year. I personally would. I got a second for Kyle Allen last year after one game. I would expect to get more for Dalton. So if it's Kyle Allen and maybe a long shot piece. Or if I'm really going to the Dak manager who's 4-1, 5-0, high scoring, and maybe I can squeeze a first out of him, saying it's a late first anyways. What's the big deal? You want to win now or what? And if I'm contending, same thing on the flip side. If I've got a strong record and I'm high scoring, I'm willing to move picks or potentially a younger player that maybe is buried on my roster somewhere if I've drafted well. Over the last year or two. So, I'd be willing to give late first round. I'd try to probably squeeze out top end of second round if I could figure out how to do that if I was competing. But that's kind of where I am and what I'm expecting. I am in one Superflex league throwing all 98% of what's left of my fab at him tonight as a non-contender to see if I can squeeze a pick out of somebody next year as I rebuild.
That's perfect. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I think the least I'm taking is 2 seconds for him. I just don't see there being. I'll keep him on my roster otherwise, because in a few weeks people are going to start needing quarterbacks, and I mean I really think that there is some potential long-term value with him too. So even if I don't move him for my price, I'm okay holding on to him in a dynasty league, and because. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe he shows really well this year, and all of a sudden, Josh and I have already had this conversation with Dak. I mean, Dallas has shown that they're not willing to pay. They're not willing to meet Dak's, requirements or expectations, and that's just been the case. And that's and that's the whole bummer of this whole situation for Dak, in my opinion. But on to Dalton. I mean, what if he shows so well and he ends up? Either they go, hey, we can keep Andy for less, and he still ran the team really well, or it's only a 1-year contract that he signed with Dallas, so things open up. Maybe he ends up replacing Rivers. Yep. I mean, there's opportunities out there that he could end up falling into a good job next year. So I'm not selling him for anything less than that, and because I'm more than happy to hold him onto my team because I might luck box into a starter next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm gonna do what Drew did. I'm gonna work backwards. Could he stay in Big D? Obviously, he could stay in Big D. What I do think is going to happen, though, is I think that the Cowboys and Dak are going to come to some kind of an agreement when they're able to, because I think since he signed the franchise tag, they can't start negotiating again with him until the season is over.
Correct.
So I think once that time frame comes and they can start negotiating with him again, I think they're going to, and I think they're going to get something done. But unfortunately, I think that means that it's going to be a even larger percent of their cap than he's taking this year, which means, nice pieces like a good backup quarterback are not going to be part of the plans. But I also think that Andy Dalton has a very long tryout now for 31 other NFL teams. And we talked about it earlier. There are going to be some teams that are definitely going to have their eyes open and looking for a quarterback. I mean, we could be talking about a quarterback, San Francisco needing a quarterback, Indianapolis needing a quarterback, both New York teams possibly looking for quarterbacks. And obviously some of these are going to be solved through the draft and some of these teams are going to stay put with what they have, and teams that we're not even talking about right now might be looking for a quarterback. And I think Andy Dalton is good enough to do that. I think he's good enough to just say, hey, I can do this, and have a good enough season to make him a little bit of money. If I'm rebuilding, you might actually want to wait. Bill brought up a really good point. Let him play a little bit. His next 3 games are the Cardinals, the football team, and the Eagles. None of those defenses inspire confidence, and if he balls out for 2 or 3 of those games, all of a sudden, like Bill said, 2 2s might turn into 1 first. And at that point, you pull the eject, you let it go, and you have a guy on your team. I'm also with Bill. If I'm a contender, I just lost Dak. No one is trying to trade, someone on the Kirk Cousins level or something like that. Maybe you throw 2 2s at the team that's 1-4 struggling, that has Andy Dalton, and say, hey man, you're rebuilding. I'm giving you a couple pieces right now, and go with it. All right. So we got a couple more minutes. So we're going to throw this last comment out here real quick, and then I think we're going to skedaddles. This is from Blue Crew Chap again. PPR 10 team trade away Drake for Kupp. I'm not even going to read the running backs and the wide receivers, because if someone is giving you Kupp for Drake, do that right now. Hit the button. Drew is nodding yes. Bill has a finger pointing. He's saying hit it. That's what that finger is doing. That finger is hitting the accept button, because that's what you need to do. Blue Crew, I have never said this in the 49 episodes that we've done. Stop watching. Go hit the accept button. Or if you have your phone with you, watch us and hit the accept button at the same time. But do that right now, because Kenyon Drake is doo-doo. It's a shame. I thought he was going to be good, not great, but good. He hasn't even gotten to good status yet. So do that. Hit accept. I think that's all we need to say. So on that note, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody that was in the chat. You guys were throwing it out there. We saw Lindsey Kennedy doing a thing. Blue Crew Chet was out there. He was asking us a whole ton of questions. We love that. Sleepy Refresh, still possibly the best name on any platform I've ever heard. He had a question too, was awesome. We saw other people coming in and out. That's also cool. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you search, the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. Trust me, you're not going to regret it. I want to throw this out. Blue Crew Chet done and accepted. He just got Cooper Kupp, and we're happy for that, because you just traded away Kenyon Drake and whatever 4 points he'll get you for the rest of the season for a stud. If you're listening to us on the podcast, we appreciate you guys too. An hour and 12 minutes, you could be doing literally anything else. Working out, hanging out with your kids, listening to a million other podcasts, but you decide to listen to us. So we appreciate it. And if you're listening to us on podcast form, make sure that if you're not subscribed for some reason, subscribe. Tell your friends. Do what I told you to do last week. Get grandma's phone. Just subscribe. She's not going to know anyway. She's not listening to podcasts. Just let us get those downloads, man. But no, for real, we want you to tell your friends. We want to get as many people in on this as possible, because Bill and I love doing this, and we also love getting people like Drew on, who just does the damn thing. And then remember, for those rating reviews too. Those reviews, we do read those. We do figure out what you guys like and dislike, and try to make the show better off of that. So we did it. Drew, special thanks to you. We thought we were going to need a someone off the bench, but you came in and just started hitting home runs. So it was even better than just getting somebody off the bench. So Drew, thank you. Appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Bill, we out of here, man.
Number 50 next week. Late.
Woo!